This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you in part by Telex, the interconnection company, owners and operators of 56 Marietta, the most network-rich co-location facility in the Southeast. Tag TV and Tag Radio. Technology now has a voice of innovation and information. Get it on www.tagtvonline.com.
The Georgia Research Alliance, GRA, and the Technology Association of Georgia, TAG, have once again joined forces to support the creation and growth of new companies expanding Georgia's strategic high-tech clusters. The GRA TAG 2010 Business Launch Competition, the quest for a grand prize of $100,000 in cash and more than $200,000 in valuable services from leading businesses in the community. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, February 23rd, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. If you own or are an executive in an early developing company in the Internet technologies marketplace, that includes software and hardware companies, developing products, online services, or back-end technologies to extend the reach, flexibility, and ease of the Internet, how would some $200,000 plus in cash and services help you reach that all-important next level of growth? On today's Tech Talk, Tino speaks with a past business launch winner to catch up on their progress and to explore tips on gaining the competitive edge in what has now become the premier business launch reward and recognition event of the year. Tino Tech Talks with 2008 GRA TAG Business Launch winner Nandan Sheth, President and COO for Acculynk, now a leading provider of software-only services that secure online payments. From the company's major milestones since winning the 2008 competition to its plans for growth in the new decade to how the GRA TAG win changed its company's future success to one-of-a-kind advice for companies planning to enter this year's competition. The Tech Talk focus is on the rapidly closing deadline for the preliminary entries and a very special look ahead to this year's finals when the best will present and defend their launch plans. As Tino speaks with 2008 GRA TAG Business Launch winner, now a valued mentor and the President and CEO of Acculynk, Nandan Sheth.
Nandan, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk.
Good afternoon, Tina. Good to be here.
It's always, I particularly enjoy talking to our past winners of the business launch because we feel like in some small way we've helped to bring you to a new level and support the growth of your company. So happy to have you on.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, why don't we start? Some of our listening audience may not be familiar with Acculynk, so can you give us the short version of your company, what you do, who your market is, et cetera?
Absolutely. Acculynk is the only company in the United States to be offering a solution for online PIN debit transactions, predominantly targeting Internet retailers and merchants that take online or Internet payments. Online PIN debit is a brand new category of payments to be introduced. It has been at the point of sale for many, many years, and it's a very successful point of sale payment type that we're bringing to the Internet.
And it's a significant market, I'm sure, given the way you described it.
Absolutely. So the online e-commerce market is growing rapidly, but at last count it was over $300 billion.
Wow.
And if you look at the point of sale numbers, 22 to 25% of point of sale transactions are PIN debit. Today, there are very few PIN debit transactions online. So if we get even half of what point of sale is, you can do the math. It's a very, very large market.
Well, you won the business launch in 2008, and I know you've made progress, a good bit of progress since then. So can you talk about some of the milestones that you've achieved since winning the launch?
The business launch competition really helped us. It validated us as a company, and frankly, in the Southeast, it really put us on the map. Since then, we've made very, very rapid progress. Number one, when we talked last time, I think, Tino, I was telling you that we're in pilot and we're being evaluated by networks and merchants. I can announce today that we're fully out of our pilot and we're in commercial launch and have introduced our product in a commercial capacity.
Great.
Number two, when we spoke last, we may have had maybe 2 EFT networks. These are the networks that process the PIN debit transactions. We have 8 EFT networks. There are probably 10 in the country, so we've got 80% of the networks available. We have signed close to 150 online websites that are accepting our payment type. And most interestingly, the consumer adoption or the consumer acceptance of our payment type has just been staggering. Our assumptions were that when offered the option, 10 to 15% of consumers would opt to put in their PIN. The real numbers are close to 57% of consumers, given the option to put the PIN online, do so.
That is a staggering number. That's phenomenal. Puts you guys in a great position. So you've come from, you're right, it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about beta test and just getting the company really moving, starting to look for customers, and you've made significant progress. So tell me where you stand today and what has to happen through 2010 in respect to your major goals.
Sure. So there are really 3 big goals that we have, or objectives as a corporation. Number one is to scale the domestic business. Now that we've validated the technology, our patent has been adopted as a standard in the industry. It's really a case of bringing more large merchants and mid-sized merchants to accept our payment type, and to bring additional issuers and EFT networks to participate in the program. Number 2 is to enable other channels. We're doing a lot of really interesting work that I can't really talk too much about, but specifically in the mobile space, we see a tremendous application for our technology, so enabling other channels such as mobile. And number 3 would be expanding to international markets. Our goal is by the end of 2010 to have expanded in at least one additional market outside of the U.S., and we're targeting Canada as that market. I think those would be our 3 biggest objectives for 2010.
So I'm going to shift gears, make sure we cover an important aspect for TAG, and we are gearing up for the 2010 business launch competition. In fact, a good bit of news, early news today to you, is that we have 82 companies that have applied to be considered for the business launch, which is a record number.
Congratulations, Tina. Yeah. That really is staggering.
It's exciting for us, and as you know, in addition to giving out the award money and the suite of services to the winner, there's a lot of companies that are benefiting through their participation in this, for example, with mentoring and even as they go through the judging. So you participated in 2008, and for our listeners, and there are probably some people on here that are in the middle of getting ready to submit their 20-page business plan and make their first pitch to what we call our Startup Gauntlet group. So I think it would be good to talk about what did participating in the 2008 launch mean for Acculynk.
Well, I think it's the prize money and the services are obviously fabulous, and we benefited tremendously from that. But I think the discipline of sitting down and articulating a business plan, crunching the numbers to develop a budget and a revenue model, and then utilizing that as our roadmap for growth in 2008 and 2009, to me was probably one of the more important aspects of going through the process. And what I would say is whether you win or not, the discipline of going through that process, as I described it, is tremendously beneficial in launching or growing your company as one of the participants in the competition.
So you guys were the winners, and you had competition. I think there were 75 companies that began the process during 2008, and I know it worked its way to a semifinal group of about a dozen, and then to the final four, and then you were selected. So through that process, there had to be some things that you did and your company did better than the others, certainly the idea and the delivery on that idea and aspects like barriers to entry and first to market and things that you were able to present were certainly key, but kind of behind the curtain, if you will. What kind of advice would you give the companies that are entering the business launch for 2010? How are they going to get to be in the top three and ultimately win the competition?
I think one of the key messages I would have is keep it simple, keep it relevant to the judges, and focus on the big idea or the big aspects of the idea rather than getting into the minutia. It's very easy as an entrepreneur or an individual who's created an idea to get sucked into the minutia. I would say what separates the wheat from the chaff is your ability to deliver a simple, articulate message that talks about the concept and its revenue model and how that concept and idea is going to scale as a company, rather than focus on the product and focus on how great the product is. So I think it's really important to make sure that you talk about a vision and a value proposition to the investor and to your key stakeholders, in addition to talking about how great your management team is and how great the product is and the fact that you have a patent. And I think for us, keeping to our core helped us. We didn't deviate too much. It was the same message that we delivered on day one when there were 72 companies or 75 companies all the way to the final presentation. And I think the message got better and we refined it as we went through the process. And last but not least, I would say listen to your mentors. I think the mentors have a great perspective. I think you have done a great job of soliciting some very accomplished mentors. So I think listen to the mentors and keep it simple.
Well, I think that's great advice, and hopefully for those that are listening, you're going to give them a little bit of a leg up for those that missed the program. But Nandan, thank you so much for joining me on Tech Talk today. Congratulations on the progress you've made with Acculynk, and we'll be keeping an eye out for continued progress through 2010.
It was my pleasure, and thank you, Tina.